There it is. I don't know why the leave the stream button and the go live button look like they should be one in the same, but they're not. Hello, happy Tuesday. Going to discuss, one moment. Going to discuss learning new skills today, or how to practice new skills in CrossFit. So if you are watching or listening in live and you want to jump into the chat, it's appreciated. I've put, I guess in general, what I'll be talking about this afternoon, in the chat there too. How is it best to practice skills in CrossFit, both in the actual workout and outside of the workout itself? Is there a right and a wrong way? Simply put, it depends. I will use a couple of examples just to help me talk through this. The question posed by Jared this morning was roughly what this says right now. He's currently working on getting handstand walks, and he said to me, what's the best way for me to practice this? Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? Is there a better way to do it? And it will be very person dependent and also movement dependent, depending on what you're trying to achieve. So for Jared, handstand walks, because that is particularly more skill than it is strength-based, that is a movement. Jared's would be a little bit different to, let's use Michaela as an example, who's trying to get handstand push-ups. And that one is still skill-based, but it's a lot more to do with strength than it might be so much about skill in the same way Jared's is. So what's the best way to practice it? Lucky camera straps in the chat. Great timing with the open coming up, if there is handstand walks in the open. Justin is also in the chat first as the camera live, just to mix things up. So thanks for being there. Thanks for commenting. If you're hiding in the background and you want to just throw a hello in there, would also be appreciated for me. So the question I've pinned there, how is it best to practice skills in CrossFit? Tony's here. Get off my digital lawn. I'm here. Thanks for joining, Tony. What kind of skills are you working on this year? Tony, oops, I don't need that. All right, back to where we were. So Jared's doing handstand walks. Jared, where do I want to start with this? For Jared, knowing where he's at right now, knowing that he can hold himself upside down, knowing that he has the ability to hold his weight upside down against a wall. For Jared, that's why his handstand walk skill work is more specifically skill than it might be the strength to do something. If you're unable to kick up onto a wall and hold a handstand in the first place, or maybe that's quite challenging for you, then the strength of that particular movement would be where you would need to start. Because Jared is already at that point, it's a little bit different for him because he's trying to progress forward over distance with his handstand walks. What else, just before I go into that any further, we have hello, The Life of Grant Fleming, and hello to Eilish. You're two sitting side by side each other in the lounge room watching this on your phones separately. And Tony's in here as well. He said, I have a black eye from wakeboarding. Don't really understand how that's possible, but the skills were still there, Tony. So for you, just a little bit more skill practice and you'll continue to get up on that wakeboard and flip whatever that trick was called. Eilish is working. And Grant says, Tony, you probably deserved it. Anyway, we'll leave that out of here. So back to the trick was called a back roll. There you go. So if you're out there in the world and you know what a back roll is, Tony hasn't got on a wakeboard for over 5 years, I think it is, and just pulled it out almost so close on the weekend, and now has a black eye somehow to show for it. All right, so using Jared as an example with his handstand walking, practicing his skill, when's the best way to do it or what's the best way to do it? For Jared, because it is a skill, in the middle of the workout, practicing distance traveling handstand walks is probably not the most suitable thing for him right now, but rather getting used to balancing and shifting weight from hand to hand. So like a shoulder tap or a hand lift alternating up against the wall would be more useful. There'll be a period of time where that will feel awkward or uncomfortable for Jared. And then as with any skill that you practice, your body gets more and more used to it. Your mind muscle awareness gets more and more used to it. And your balance improves and your ability to use those smaller muscles to control what's happening improves as well. So for Jared, if he wants to get handstand walks, in particular, in the short term, it would be continue to practice traveling distance. Yes, but I'd prioritize more time up against the wall doing shoulder taps or hand lifts, particularly in that up against the wall direction where it's back to the wall, not that wall walk position where it's front to the wall, because you'll then get a feel for weight has to be over and then weight shift from hand to hand in the way that you need to pick your hand up off the floor to be able to move forward when you're upside down on the floor for a handstand walk. Once you get really comfortable doing that, you'll probably have more control when you're out on the floor. So you'll be less likely to fall down and more likely to be able to feel what needs to happen as you're controlling that traverse forward. Finnan is behind me watching on the screen going, hi, Elena. Hi, Finnan. Hi, Finnan. So Jared, in the short term, I would continue practicing those shoulder taps on the wall with your back to the wall. Get really comfortable with doing, say, 20 shoulder taps. In amongst those, potentially just walking towards the wall in a handstand walk variation. And then once you start to feel like you've got some control there, taking it out onto the floor, kicking yourself up, getting inverted, and then traveling forward. I think the biggest thing to remember is also when you do head out onto the floor, getting upside down is going to be more useful for you in that stacked position than trying to rush to walk. So when you're away from the wall, getting to that tipping point or that balance point where your body naturally is pulling you forward slightly and then shifting those hands. That would be my suggestion for you. On the flip side of that, I had mentioned Michaela before, trying to build strength for handstand push-ups. When it comes to something more strength specific like that, negative work up against the wall is probably what I would recommend for Michaela. She does have strength behind her, but she was saying that the actual movement of the kipping handstand push-up feels disjointed at the moment. So first thing I'd be saying is continue to build strength in your shoulders and your inverted stability where you do slow lowers down. What you want is to be able to control your body weight down to the floor without collapsing on your head and all of the pressure coming through your neck in that way. So kicking up into a handstand hold, lowering down under control the whole time and not dropping onto your head in the bottom. That would be the strength focus I would take for Michaela with her handstand push-ups. And then I would do a high variation. So 20 kilo plate and an ab mat, maybe even 20 kilo plate and 2 ab mats to start with, depending on the length of your arms. And just practice coming down onto your head and then shifting your knees down into that drive position and then popping from there. So the shorter you have to pop with the arms and the more practice you can do with that, you'll start to feel where your hips generate most of that power rather than pressing with your arms. And then you come down bit by bit. So 20 kilo plate, an ab mat, and then 10 kilo plate, an ab mat, and then ab mat by itself. And then once you're at the ab mat by yourself, plates under each hand to just decrease the height of that ab mat, and then eventually down to the floor. Now with both Annie, didn't answer your question today. With both Jared and Michaela, this kind of stuff is going to be more useful outside of the workout of the day. So skill work before or after class, or specific skill work you're doing in the build up to the workout. For Michaela, doing really challenging handstand push-ups in a workout is not going to be the most appropriate thing until she's built some strength. So reducing the range and getting that kipping motion would be my recommendation there. Mixing that up with a dumbbell push press or a box handstand push-up might be more appropriate. Whereas for Jared, if he was in a workout, I wouldn't be putting him out on the floor to be doing handstand walking straight away. I would be bringing Jared against the wall and asking him to do 20 shoulder taps for every length of handstand walks there might be. So when it comes to specifically in the workout, we're no longer trying to practice a skill we're trying to achieve. We're now trying to choose an option that you know that you are comfortable with. That means that you can maintain some sort of similar stimulus to the workout, which is why for Jared, if he currently can't do 20 shoulder taps consistently, say unbroken, then we'd bring that down. Maybe we'd say 2 or 3 sets of 6 to 10 hand lifts until he's comfortable with that. And then it would be trying to get a stint of 20 shoulder taps with his back to the wall. With Michaela, bringing the range of motion down for the handstand push-up is one way to do it, but I wouldn't choose that option every single time. I would mix that up with the boxed handstand push-up so you are getting full range of motion, and say a dumbbell strict press or a seated strict press with the dumbbells as a way to make sure that there's still some strength building, full range of motion. But again, when it's in the workout, you want it to align as much with the stimulus as possible. So if the workout says it's 20 handstand push-ups and you should be able to do them in 3 sets, whatever you change your movement to or sub your movement for should follow that same thought process. So if we were doing, say, dumbbell push press, I'd expect you to be doing your reps of dumbbell push press in 3 sets or less. So make sure that the weight is challenging enough to allow for that. Did I miss something there? I'm going to talk about a couple of other examples as well. Just go back to my question to make sure I'm on the right page. How is it best to practice skills in CrossFit? Both. Yeah. So if there's, say, WOD prep or warm-up time where you get the chance to practice the skill as a skill, take that opportunity to do something, even if it's not the movement you're planning on doing in the workout, so that you get a chance to touch on that in that moment. And then use an option in the workout that will allow you to maintain your stimulus for what's required for that day. The other thing I wanted to bring up, so especially with the open coming up, there's a little video that I was looking for the other day in regards to jumping pull-ups, because this is a really interesting one too. With jumping pull-ups, for some people, that's a skill movement. For other people, it's not necessarily a skill at this point. It's just there's strength missing from doing the standard kipping pull-up. And so therefore the jumping pull-up is required as a sub for the workout. Again, when we're thinking about it, are we doing skill work or strength work, or are we in the workout and we're trying to work with the stimulus? So we did an open repeat last week, and it had, I can't remember which open it was. No, it's gone from my brain. Anyway, the workout was, maybe it was 2024. It had 5 rounds of 10 thrusters and 10 chest to bar pull-ups, followed by a minute rest, and then 5 rounds of 7 thrusters and 7 bar muscle-ups. And with my wrist in the state that it's in, even just doing a kipping pull-up or a kipping chest to bar is out of the question for me. And so I watched a video on the CrossFit YouTube channel, and I thought, I've never really thought about jumping pull-ups in that capacity. I'm going to play the video and then I'm going to talk through it a little bit. So hopefully the sound is on. If you can't hear it, maybe just jump in the chat and let me know before it's too late. But we'll see what happens.
Coaches, we're going to go over what the jumping pull-up should look like. It's a really cool option to scale your kipping pull-up in the workouts, regardless of whether we're looking to preserve intensity or work on our athlete's skill. So the first option we're going to see is where James steps up onto the riser, and he's setting himself up to a point where when he puts his arms up over the head, we want to see that the bar is somewhere between the wrist and the elbow. Now, to make this easier for our athletes, the bar would be lower because then they get to use a little bit more leg to jump up. To make it harder, bar is going to be closer to the wrist.
So I just stop it there because I thought this was quite interesting too. Never really thought about it like this. When the Open brings out movement standards like jumping chest to bar or jumping pull-up for the scaled variation, they do say that the bar needs to be 6 inches above the height of your head. And doing that day to day when you might change your rig spot in the gym is a challenging one sometimes because it's like you can't physically tell unless someone else says to you, yes, that's at the correct height. So I'd never really thought about it like this, but using the arms extended position and knowing that the bar might sit, just make me bigger for a second, knowing where in your forearm, when your arms are extended overhead, the line of the pull-up bar is a nice, easy way to work out where your scaling is at in any given moment. So if you dropped into another gym, it would be a nice, easy way for you to do jumping pull-up somewhere else without being like, is this bar, which bar is 6 inches above my head? So just using your arms as reference, anything below the wrist or at the wrist, more challenging. If the bar's closer to the elbow, less challenging. And again, that varies depending on the person too. So just a nice, simple way to work out where you should be.
Because then they got to use more arms. To execute this, he's going to grab hold of the bar. He's going to squat down until his arms are straight. And then in a completely vertical line of action, he's going to jump up and go back down for 3 reps. As he does this, we want to make sure that he fully extends the arms straight and that on the way down, he doesn't control the negative. He's not trying to go slow. He just free falls back down to the hang and then jumps right back up.
Now, I did jumping pull-ups and jumping chest to bars on Friday, and I thought it was really interesting. It's harder than you think to get down to that fully extended position when you're trying to go fast. So it's really something that you've got to think about there too. You'll notice he drops straight down. They'll talk about this in a second. Going up and down, if you've already done some skill work or you're not trying to work on the kipping motion as a skill, is a greater way to preserve the stimulus of the movement closer to a kipping pull-up. And I say that too because I did it on Friday and I had metallic in my throat from the speed that I did the jumping chest to bar and jumping pull-up at. And it's been a while since I felt a gymnastics movement like create that effect in my body since my wrist injury.
This is to practice going fast in a workout. When you want to scale the intensity or scale the kipping pull-up in order to preserve intensity, keep the heart rate high. If we wanted to maintain the skill of the movement, it could look like this. He's going to catch a little bit more of an arch forward, a little bit more of a press down back behind to mimic the kip. When he does this, same thing, he's not trying to go slow on the way down, he just pushes back and away and falls. But what we do to make sure, if he's going for this option, that we use some sort of...
Anyway, then they talk about make sure that the box doesn't rock around. And if you've ever been on those Max boxes at the gym, if you set it a certain way and you swing through and swing back, the box can tip with your weight. So that swing through and swing back in particular, they're talking about still skill work. So if you're still learning the kipping pull-up motion or the kip swing motion, this one can be really suitable for continuing to practice that, both in the workout and outside of the workout. If you've already got kipping pull-ups and they're pretty dialed in as a movement themselves, you could benefit more from dropping and jumping straight up, dropping and jumping straight up in terms of preserving the stimulus in the workout, as the goal is get the work done as fast as possible while following the movement standards. So depending on sort of where you fall in that part, but again, let me just make me bigger. The prep work that you do prior to the workout starting, you could still practice that movement pattern for skill work and then revert to drop, jump, following on from there in the workout to keep your intensity higher if that's what the workout is asking for. So it's just another example of, and jumping pull-ups, jumping chest to bar, even bar muscle up, same thing. You might practice the full movement of the bar muscle up prior to the workout starting, but knowing that the workout asks for a certain amount of reps, let's say it's 30 total across the workout and you're trying to maintain that stimulus as much as you can, a banded bar muscle up or a box jumping bar muscle up might give you the correct feeling for the workout as what was intended with the originally written version that has 30 bar muscle ups in it. If you just do one every round, you've done 3 bar muscle ups, but you've probably missed a lot from that workout without the volume that's required there. So bring the movement back in the workout to something that you can consistently hit the desired stimulus for. But when you're doing the skill work, challenge yourself enough that you can have that adaptation there. What else might be examples? Pull this up. Eilish. Also highly recommend kicking up against a door or wall at home, concentrating on form, so squeezing feet together, squeezing your bum and pushing through your shoulders, biceps against your ears. Yes, so this is in reference to holding a handstand, something that is easy to practice at home, on a solid wall at home or a solid door at home, or even outside on the outside of your house if you've got an appropriate space there. But Eilish is right. It's that we're trying to train all of the muscles. And so if you can hold tension everywhere and squeeze, that's going to have more use for you than if you just kick up and you relax in that position. So make yourself as tall as possible. Squeeze your feet together, point your toes, push the floor away, and hold that position, or try and maintain that position as good as possible. If you're shifting weight from side to side, if you're just doing a handstand hold, try and hold that position. Make yourself as tall as possible for as long as you can hold just that inverted position. The only other thing, just because it's kind of relevant, there was one other question. Let me find it. If you've got anything you want to ask in the chat too, feel free to ask your questions there. Let me find this one. All right. Dino, aka Mr. Biceps, asked this question. Let me just pull it up. Oh, damn it, cut the end off it. Anyway. So Dean says that he craps out on toaster bar at about 15 reps and struggles to do much more than singles after that point without a heap of rest. How can I improve this and be more like Dane, who could probably do 50 and then unbroken has dropped off there? Firstly, I would say, Dino, go back in time and do gymnastics as a child and a teenager, because I'm pretty sure that's what Dane did. So he's already got a very solid gymnastics foundation behind him. But because we can't go back in time, what I would say to you, Dino, and we had a little chat about it this morning, if you've got 15 toaster bar and then you fall apart from that point, the first question would be, is it a muscular fatigue thing, or is it your capacity to hang on to the bar for a period of time? So as an example, if you've got a dead hang that is only 30 seconds, like max hang time, there's no way you're going to be able to stay up on the bar for any longer to do a set of toes to bar if you don't have the capacity to stay on the bar for longer in the first place. So building some dead hang, max hang into your pre or post sort of skill work, or even just, prioritizing that if there is toe to bar skill work in the class, that would be my starting point. The other nice simple way too, if you know you've got 15 and then you're back to singles from there, is, and I say simple, and I'll use every minute on the minute for 10 minutes, because 10 minutes is just a nice number, but it could be 5, it could be 6, it could be 8 minutes, it could be whatever it needs to be. Pick a number. Let's say you start with 5. Every minute on the minute for 10 minutes, you do 5 toes to bar. If you don't fall apart doing that, the next time you do it, choose the number 6. Next time, choose the number 7. If, say, you've got the capacity to do 10 toes to bar back to back to back for 10 minutes, then from there are there's a couple of different ways you can do it, but you're looking for total volume to start with. So if you could comfortably hold 10 sets, so every minute on the minute for 10 minutes, and you could do 10 toes to bar unbroken every minute on the minute for 10 minutes, your options would be increase that number from 10 to 11 or 12, but decrease the total amount of time. So maybe every minute on the minute for 8 minutes. If my math is right, that should be more than 100. But if my math is not right, then do 9 minutes or 10 minutes. But slowly increase the amount of work that you're doing and see where you fall apart. On the flip side of that, you could do alternating 10 toe to bar 1 minute, 30 second, 45 second, 50 second hang next minute, 10 toe to bar following minute, and then backwards and forwards. But my suggestion to you would not be to do a max set over and over again and just hope for the best. It would be put a structured test in, see if there's a number where you fall apart, and then try and build on that number. And then in knowing that and learning that, like if you have the capacity to do 10 toes to bar, even every minute on the minute for 5 minutes for 50 total toes to bar, if you can do that, you know that you've got the capacity for 10 back to back to back. If you fall apart prior to that, then 10 is too high of a number. So if you're in a workout, I would be saying don't do a set of 15 at the start. Start with smaller sets, be consistent, and really structure your rest. So you might drop, count yourself back in, 3, 2, 1, and then come back up and go again. So there are a lot of different ways to play around with this one. My only suggestion would be don't just try and hit max sets and hope for the best. Be very structured about what it is you do and try and find where your capacity is, rather outside of just I've got 15 and then I do singles. Twitter, hi, welcome. I want to see Dane do 50 now. I know, I'd like to see Dane do 50 as well. I reckon that, definitely 30. We could put Matt and Dane up against each other and see who falls apart first. I think that would be a fun test to do. Eilish, best exercises to increase grip hang strength. Well, I can tell you right now, just hang on the bar. I've seen a significant improvement in my grip strength over summer just from wakeboarding, so hanging onto the handle behind the boat for a period of time. So anything that has you holding for longer durations, and the simplest thing to do would be, if you've got access to a pull-up bar, do a max hang. Do a max hang every day, or do 3 sets of slightly under max hang. Consistency in this one will be better for you in terms of max hang every day or every other day would be better than doing it once a week and then not thinking about it for a period of time after that. In terms of best exercises though, whatever you've got access to. If you don't have access to something to hang off, but you've got heavy dumbbells or even a barbell that you can load up, holding farmer's carry position, max dumbbell hold or max kettlebell hold or max barbell hold with as much weight as you can hold. And I would say try and extend the duration past that 30-second mark, past that 60-second mark, and fall somewhere in between that 60 seconds and 2 minute. You can do a 2-minute dead hang comfortably or a 2-minute heavy hold. Start there and then increase the weight or increase the time if you want to. But anything that puts your grip under tension for a significant amount of time. I'm sure Eilish wanted me to say something about, no, I won't go there actually. If there are no other questions or comments in the chat, you can always comment on this afterwards if you think of something or you've got a question you want to go through. I will call it there otherwise. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you got something out of it. And I'll be here again on Thursday. Maybe a little bit more nutrition focused on Thursday, but we'll see. Sometimes it just comes to whatever I'm feeling on the day that feels simple enough for me to talk about. Oh, I did have one other thing I wanted to show you all. This won't take long, so I guess it doesn't matter. Share this tab instead. I just wanted to bring this up. This is CrossFit's I've blanked here. Anyway, in CrossFit, if you are trying to get to a point where you get intensity in a movement, you must have mechanics first, show consistency second, and then we can apply intensity to it third. So wrapping it back around to those first couple of examples, if Jared wants to handstand walk, doing handstand walks in a workout is not going to give him a great amount of intensity because he doesn't have the mechanics and hasn't shown the consistency of those mechanics yet to elicit the required intensity or stimulus when he comes to the workout, which is why doing shoulder taps would be more useful. He does have the mechanics for that. He can show the consistency for that. Therefore, he will get the intensity from that. When people skip mechanics and consistency and try and jump straight to intensity, whether it's with weight on the bar or high skill movements, that's where injuries tend to happen. So if Jared was trying to handstand walk before he had the mechanics dialed in and then the consistency of those mechanics dialed in, if he tried to apply intensity to handstand walking, it puts you more at risk of getting injured if you haven't nailed the foundations first. So it was just that picture I wanted to show. If you think about like mechanics first, consistency second, and then the intensity comes third, that does also help you prioritize what a movement could or couldn't be in a workout, knowing where your current capacity is for that movement based off mechanics, and then the ability to do it consistently to then allow you to get the intensity there. Couple of late comments. Let's throw this in. Dane, what if I don't want to do 50? Comp with Matt would be interesting. Well, I think, Dane, that you won't have a choice. What could we put on it? I'm sure Matt would say yes, he just likes a challenge. What would be suitable to you, Dane, for you to want to go for 50? Would we do 50 unbroken, or would we just see for time who can get to 50 reps first? I'd prefer to see 50 unbroken if it was possible, but I'm open. I'm open to suggestions. Grant says toe to bar off. Grant would have been good at a toe to bar off once upon a time. I don't know where they're at the moment, Grant. What do you reckon? Do you want to join in? Well, thanks so much for joining me. Nice to see some names in the chat today. I don't mind if it's just in there to get Dane to do something that he doesn't want to do. Max unbroken set, says Justin, the camera live. I agree. I'd prefer to see who can hang on for the longest, and I'll even allow double kip swings at the back end of the unbroken set just to see how long each person can hang on for. I won't like it, but I'll allow it. No grips. Well, I mean, that would be, I would give it to Dane, I think, if that was the case. Sorry, Matt, but you definitely, Dane definitely has a lot more lifetime. Yeah, I think I'd still give it to Dane. Matt would want to drop and chalk sooner rather than later. But yes, no grips would be great too. Maybe we do a grips and a no grips one, just for the sake of appeasing everybody. But yes, definitely, that's probably something else too. If all your training, Dino, if you're listening out there, if all your toes to bar training has been with grips, you would actually really benefit from doing some toes to bar training without grips. Get connected to the bar, feel what your wrist is doing, feel what your grip is doing, and don't rely on the grips to be the reason that you're staying on the bar. When you think about it like a, what's it called? Like straps on a deadlift. It's like you use straps on a deadlift when the weight's so heavy that your grip can't take it. You should train without straps or without your grips to increase your own capacity so that you're not relying on that grip wrapped around that bar taking your load, and you're in fact working your actual grip. Grant says he'll do it if Justin does it. So we might have a race of 4, and it'll be a RX and intermediate division where Grant and Justin converse each other and Matt and Dane converse each other. What do you reckon, Juzzy? Do you reckon you could do 50? See if he's still listening. How many do you think you could do? No chance unbroken. Should just do a 2-minute max test one day at the gym, just at the end of a workout, just to see where everyone's at. Do it no grips, just to really see where everyone's at. All right, I'm going to call it there. Thanks so much for joining in, everyone. And if you're here on Thursday, I'll see you there. Justin, I would be in the 20 to 30 range, which is still pretty good. Thanks, guys.